Welcome to the Heartbreak Chronicles, where every story is a raw reflection of life. Hit that subscribe button to stay tuned, give us a like to show your support, and share this episode with your friends. Don't forget to leave a comment and let us know what you think. Now, let's dive into today's story. It was on a spring afternoon that Oliver first met Sophia. Oliver was admiring an abstract painting in a small, sophisticated gallery in the center of town when he felt a light touch on his arm. "Sorry," said a soft voice. "I didn't mean it." Oliver turned around and saw a pair of bright brown eyes. It was a petite young woman with long, cascading hair who was smiling apologetically at him. "That's okay," Oliver replied, unable to help but smile back. "Do you like the painting too?" That's how they started talking. Sophia is a fine arts student with a unique perspective on art. Oliver may be an amateur, but his enthusiasm and curiosity impressed Sophia. As they strolled through the gallery, discussing each piece, time seemed to pass without them realizing it. When the gallery was about to close, both of them were a little reluctant to leave. Oliver worked up the courage to ask, "Can we see the show together next time?" Sophia smiles and nods, "Sure, I'd love to." From that day on, Oliver and Sophia began a beautiful friendship. They often visit exhibitions, discuss art, and share their lives together. Oliver likes Sophia's enthusiastic attitude towards life, while Sophia appreciates Oliver's sense of humor and thoughtfulness. Over time, their relationship deepened. Oliver began to realize that he had unconsciously fallen in love with this smart, vivacious girl. But he wasn't sure if Sophia felt the same way, so he never confessed. Until one day, Sophia told Oliver that she was about to leave the country to further her education. Oliver realized that if he didn't say what he wanted, he might not get another chance. On the day of the airport farewell, Oliver finally got up the courage to hold Sophia's hand and said, "Sophia, I love you. I know you're going to pursue your dreams, and I'll be waiting for you to come back." Sophia's eyes glistened with tears as she hugged Oliver tightly. "I love you too, Oliver. We'll work together, okay?" That's how they started their long-distance relationship. Despite being separated by thousands of miles, their bond has grown stronger. They video call each other every day and share their lives. Oliver often sends Sophia her favorite books and small gifts, while Sophia sends Oliver her paintings. 2 years later, Sophia returned from her studies. Oliver had been waiting at the airport for a long time, and when he caught sight of Sophia, he rushed forward and hugged her tightly in his arms. "Welcome home," Oliver whispered in Sophia's ear. Sophia looked at Oliver tearfully. "I'm finally back, and we don't have to be apart anymore." Soon after, Oliver proposes to Sophia and he takes her to the gallery where they first met. In the gallery, Oliver had set up a private exhibition of the paintings Sophia had sent him over the years. In front of the last painting, Oliver got down on one knee and took out a diamond ring. "Sophia, will you be my wife? Let's make more memories together." Sophia cried tears of joy and nodded her head vigorously. "I do, Oliver. I do." After their marriage, Oliver and Sophia's life was like a fairy tale. They bought a small house with a garden, where Sophia opened a painting studio and Oliver taught at the nearby university. On weekends, they often enjoy the sunshine together in the garden or take their dog for a walk in the park. 2 years later, they welcomed their first child, a lovely daughter named Emma. 3 years later, their son Ethan was born. Oliver and Sophia's family life is full of laughter and every day is a new adventure. Sophia was not only Oliver's wife, but also his closest friend and life partner. They have experienced the sweet and sour of life together, supporting each other and growing together. Whether it's a setback at work or a minor annoyance in life, they can always find strength and comfort in each other. However, just when they thought this happiness would last forever, fate played a cruel joke on them. It was the eve of their 10th wedding anniversary, and Oliver was preparing for the anniversary. He plans to take Sophia back to the place where they met and relive the good memories. However, that's when he noticed that Sophia's behavior had been a little unusual lately. She began to work late and came home later and later. Sometimes Oliver wakes up in the middle of the night to find Sophia whispering on the phone in the living room. When he asks, Sophia always says it's work. Oliver had some doubts, but chose to trust his wife. Until one day, Oliver overheard a text message on Sophia's cell phone. It was an unfamiliar number, and the text messages were ambiguous. Oliver felt his heart tighten, but he tried to convince himself that it must be a misunderstanding. However, as time went on, it became increasingly difficult for Oliver to ignore the signs of unease. Sophia became distracted, often staring at her cell phone. She no longer shares her life with Oliver as enthusiastically as she once did, and communication between the two has become less and less frequent. Oliver tries to communicate with Sophia, but every time the subject of her recent unusual behavior comes up, Sophia becomes defensive and even irritated. This left Oliver feeling disheartened, and he began to wonder if he really knew his wife. Just one day before his 10th wedding anniversary, Oliver finally worked up the courage and decided to have a serious talk with Sophia. He came home early, prepared Sophia's favorite dinner, and waited for her to return. However, Sophia did not return home until late at night. Oliver sat in the living room, looking at the cooling dishes on the table, his heart filled with disappointment and pain. Just then, he heard the sound of a key being inserted into the lock. Sophia pushes the door open and is visibly taken aback to see Oliver sitting in the dark. "Oliver, why are you still up?" Sophia's voice held a hint of panic. Oliver took a deep breath and tried to stay calm. "Sophia, we need to talk?" It was at that moment that Oliver saw the fear and guilt flash through Sophia's eyes. He suddenly realized that the last thing he wanted to believe might have become a reality. Sophia slowly walks over to Oliver and sits down, her hands twisted together uneasily. "Oliver, there's something I have to tell you." Over the next few hours, Sophia confessed everything. She admits she cheated on Rick, their college friend. The news comes as a bolt from the blue, shattering Oliver's inner world. "Why Rick?" asked Oliver bitterly. "Why now? We're about to celebrate our 10th wedding anniversary." Sophia was in tears, her voice choked. "I don't know why. Maybe it's because of the stress of work. Maybe it's because we're growing apart. When Rick came along, he gave me something I couldn't find in our relationship. But it's not your fault, Oliver. It's me who made the mistake, and I regret it." Oliver felt a twinge of heaven as he stood up and stumbled toward the door. "Oliver, please don't go," Sophia cried. "We can talk. We can figure out a way to salvage." But Oliver is beyond listening. He needed time, space to digest this harsh reality. He snatched the door and disappeared into the night, leaving Sophia alone in the empty living room, crying out in pain. In the days that follow, Oliver and Sophia's lives are thrown into chaos. Oliver moved out of the house and is staying at a friend's house for the time being. He can't face Sophia, much less their once happy home. Sophia, on the other hand, is in a deep state of remorse and regret. She tries to contact Oliver, but all her calls and texts go stone cold. In this way, time went by day, and 10 years passed in the blink of an eye. Throughout the decade, Oliver and Sophia have barely maintained a semblance of peace for the sake of their children. They never really addressed the hurt from that betrayal, choosing instead to bury it deep. Oliver has devoted himself fully to his work and has achieved considerable success in the academic field. Sophia, on the other hand, has returned to her artistic endeavors, and her paintings are beginning to be noticed in the local art scene. Though both have progressed in their careers, they communicate less and less with each other, as if they were two disconnected souls living under the same roof. It was at this point that an unexpected invitation shattered this apparent tranquility. Oliver and Sophia's college reunion is coming up, and they are invited to join them. At first, both were a little hesitant, but with the encouragement of their children, they eventually decided to attend together. "Maybe it's a chance to start over," Emma, now a budding teenager, told her parents, "and you can relive some of the great memories from college." With mixed feelings, Oliver and Sophia embark on a journey back to their alma mater. When they arrived at the reunion site, the familiar faces and cheerful laughter made the two men temporarily forget the gap between them and revel in the joy of reunion. However, the joy didn't last long. As Oliver is chatting animatedly with a couple of his old classmates, he notices Sophia's expression suddenly stiffen. Following her gaze, Oliver saw a familiar figure, Rick. Rick was a classmate of theirs in college, known for his ego and frivolity. Now, seeing Rick walking toward Sophia, Oliver felt a sharp pang of discomfort and anger. "Sophia, it's been a long time," Rick said with a hint of flirtation in his voice. "You've gotten even more beautiful over the years." Sophia forced a small smile. "Hello, Rick." Oliver stepped forward and gently wrapped his arms around Sophia's waist. "It's been a long time, Rick." Rick's gaze sweeps back and forth between Oliver and Sophia, the corners of his mouth curling into a meaningful smile. "Oh, it seems your relationship is still so close." The comment made both Oliver and Sophia uncomfortable. Oliver tried to say something, but Sophia gave his hand a gentle squeeze, signaling him to ignore it. However, Rick doesn't seem to be going to stop there. Throughout the evening, he approaches Sophia intentionally or unintentionally, throwing out ambiguous remarks every now and then. Whenever Oliver tried to step in and stop it, Sophia would block him, whispering, "Ignore him. He's just trying to start a fight." But Rick's behavior is getting out of hand. At a buffet, he intentionally bumped into Sophia and put his arm around her waist to help her stand still. Oliver, enraged at the sight, strides over. "Enough, Rick," said Oliver's voice, drawing the attention of those around him. "What the hell do you want?" Rick feigned innocence. "I'm just helping out an old classmate, Oliver." "What, are you even jealous of that?" Oliver was about to retort when Sophia took his hand. "Oliver, come on, let's go outside and get some air." At Sophia's insistence, Oliver barely suppresses his anger and follows her out of the ballroom. In the night, Sophia sighed deeply. Why put up with his harassment? Oliver asked in disbelief. Sophia was silent for a moment before she spoke slowly. "Oliver, there are some things. I think we need to talk about it. Maybe now is the time." Just then their conversation was interrupted by a clamor. It turns out that Rick has had too much to drink in the ballroom and is loudly proclaiming that he wants to dedicate a love song to Sophia. Oliver and Sophia rush back to the ballroom to see Rick staggering on the improvised stage with a microphone in his hand. "This song," Rick said drunkenly, "is for my favorite Sophia. Even though you chose someone else, there will always be a place for you in my heart." The room erupts as all eyes are on Oliver and Sophia. Oliver felt a wave of vertigo and couldn't believe what he was hearing. He turned his head to Sophia, only to find her face pale and her eyes filled with panic and guilt. "Sophia, what's going on?" Oliver's voice was filled with confusion and pain. Sophia opened her mouth, but no words came out. Just then, Rick stumbles off the stage and towards them. "Oh, Oliver," Rick gave a sarcastic smile. "Don't you realize? Your perfect wife isn't really as perfect as you think she is." Oliver felt a twinge of heaven. He looked at Rick's smug expression, then at Sophia's panicked eyes, and suddenly realized that things were far more complicated than he'd thought. "Let's go home," Sophia whispered, tears in her eyes. "I think it's time for us to talk." To the astonishment of the crowd, Oliver and Sophia leave the reunion in a hurry. On the way home, the car was silent and the air was filled with tension and unease. Oliver gripped the steering wheel tightly, trying to keep his emotions in check, while Sophia kept her head down and kept twisting her fingers. This night was destined to be another turning point in their marriage. The time has finally come to face the problems that were not completely solved a decade ago. Both Oliver and Sophia understand that the next conversation will determine their future fate. A suffocating silence pervades Oliver and Sophia's compartment after their hasty departure from the reunion. When they finally got home, it was late at night. Emma and Ethan had long since gone to bed, and a silence enveloped the house. Oliver walked into the living room in silence and turned on a floor lamp. Sophia's face looked pale in the soft light. She sat shakily on the couch, fear and guilt in her eyes. "Okay, Sophia." Oliver's voice was low and calm, but it held as much emotion as a volcano about to erupt. "You said we needed to talk. Now, tell me what the hell is going on tonight." Sophia took a deep breath and tried to calm herself. "Oliver, I know I confessed to you 10 years ago about cheating on you with Rick, but I didn't tell you the full details. What happened tonight made me realize that we never really addressed it." Oliver felt a wave of vertigo as he clenched his fists and tried to control his emotions. "What do you mean you didn't tell me the full details? It's been 10 years, and I thought we'd gotten through that. I I was simply admitting to the cheating, but not describing what happened in detail. Sophia's voice trembled. I was afraid that if you knew the whole truth, you'd leave me. Oliver lurched to his feet and paced back and forth in the living room. He felt an intense sense of betrayal and anger. So every time we've run into Rick over the last 10 years, you've been hiding something? Sophia nodded, tears coming to her eyes. I'm so sorry, Oliver. I know I made an unforgivable mistake, but it was really just once, just that one time. I regretted it immediately afterward, and Wait, Oliver interrupted. You said you were going to tell me the details. Well, now, I need to know the whole truth, from beginning to end, word for word. Over the next hour, Sophia describes in detail her interactions with Rick during the reunion and how they ended up having sex. She explains her state of mind at the time, as well as her remorse and fear afterward. Oliver listened in silence, each word like a sharp blade piercing his heart. When Sophia finished, a long silence fell over the room. Finally, Oliver spoke, his voice filled with pain and exhaustion. Sophia, I don't know what to say. For the past 10 years, I've thought we'd work this out, and I've been trying to fix our relationship, trying to get back the feelings we once had. But now, I feel like we never really faced this. Sophia kept her head down and the tears kept flowing. Oliver, I know my behavior is unforgivable, but I love you and I love our family. For the past 10 years, I have felt remorse and pain every day for my mistakes. Please give me a chance to start over. Oliver sighed deeply. Sophia, I need time and space to think right now. I'm not sure I can forgive you or trust you again. I can't stay in this house right now. With that said, Oliver got up and walked towards the bedroom and began to pack his bags. Sophia follows him, crying and apologizing, but Oliver seems to have made up his mind. Sophia took Oliver's hand as he dragged his suitcase toward the door. Oliver, please don't go. Think of Emma and Ethan. They need you. Oliver stopped and looked back upstairs at the kids' room. His heart wrenched, but he knew that if he stayed now, he might do more things that everyone would regret. Tell the boys I need some time alone, Oliver said calmly, and I'll get back to you when I've thought things through. With that said, Oliver opened the door and stepped out into the darkness of the night. Sophia sat paralyzed, watching her husband's back fade to the end of the street. Over the next few days, Oliver cuts off contact with Sophia completely. He turned off his cell phone and took an extended leave of absence from work. He needed time and space to think, to heal his broken heart. Oliver embarks on an aimless journey alone. He has traveled to many cities and seen different cultures and lifestyles. During the journey, he keeps thinking back to his time with Sophia, from meeting and falling in love to marriage and children, to the present fragmentation. Sometimes Oliver feels deep anger and betrayal. Other times he remembers the sweet times he once had and feels infinite melancholy and sadness. He wonders if he'll ever be able to forgive Sophia, if he'll ever be able to rebuild his trust in her. After a long period of thought and self-reflection, Oliver eventually realizes that while Sophia's behavior is deplorable, not all of their marital problems stem from it. Their lack of communication and neglect of each other all contributed to this outcome. Ultimately, Oliver makes a difficult decision. He picked up his cell phone, which hadn't been turned on in a long time, and sent a message to Sophia. We need to talk. For the sake of our children and for ourselves. I think we should give each other a chance to really face and work through our issues. But it's going to take time and patience and honesty and trust in each other. Are you ready? The moment Oliver hit send, he felt an inexplicable sense of relief. Whatever the future holds, he knows he has made a choice for his life. Now it's time to go home, face reality, and start a new chapter in your life. Oliver's text message is like a seed of hope planted in Sophia's heart. However, before the buds of hope could grow, they were mercilessly destroyed by the storms of reality. When Oliver returns home, Sophia looks forward to an honest conversation, a chance to start over. Instead, she saw a tired, cold-eyed stranger. Oliver's journey hadn't quelled his anger as much as she'd hoped. Instead, it had given him plenty of time to think deeply and make a difficult decision. Sophia, Oliver's voice was calm and firm. I think we both know that our marriage is beyond repair." Sophia felt a wave of vertigo as she stumbled back a step. But, but you said we needed to talk. You said we should give each other a chance? Oliver sighed deeply. Yes, we do need to talk. But not about starting over, but about how to end it with honor. The conversation that followed was like a nightmare. Oliver calmly states his thoughts. They should get a divorce. They need to remain friendly for the sake of the children, but as a couple they have come to the end of their rope. Sophia felt her world falling apart. She cries, pleads, promises to change, but Oliver's resolve seems unshakable. Finally, Oliver blurts out the last straw that broke Sophia's back. "I've already told Emma and Ethan," Oliver said with a hint of apology in his voice. "They're both adults and I think they have a right to know the truth." Sophia sits paralyzed, looking at Oliver in disbelief. You told the kids? You told them that I cheated on them?" Oliver nodded. "Yes, I think they should know the real reason for our divorce. They were shocked at first, but eventually they understood my decision." The news came as a bolt from the blue and completely crushed Sophia. Not only has she lost her husband, but now even her children know of her betrayal. Shame, remorse, and despair overwhelmed her like a tidal wave. For the next few days, it was as if Sophia had lost all motivation in her life. She couldn't face the disappointment in her children's eyes or accept the fact that she had destroyed the family. When Oliver's attorney delivers the divorce papers, Sophia signs them almost mechanically, as if it's not ending a marriage but merely signing for a package. However, when the last document is signed, the weight of reality finally and completely crushes Sophia. She breaks down, crying hysterically and pleading with Oliver to give her another chance. But Oliver just looks at her in silence, with sadness and compassion in his eyes, but no more of his old warmth. Emma and Ethan try to comfort their mother, but the disappointment and confusion in their eyes only adds to Sophia's pain. Eventually, the kids couldn't stand the tense atmosphere in the house and decided to move out. "Mom, we love you," Emma said before she left, "but it's going to take time for us to come to terms with all of this. I want you to take care of yourself." Ethan was more direct. "Mom, you need help? Please go see a therapist, okay?" But Sophia refused any kind of help. She locks herself in her house and spends her days and nights immersed in alcohol and memories. Tears blurred her vision as she looked through old photo albums and caressed pictures of Oliver and the kids. Sophia's health deteriorated dramatically over time. She hardly ate or drank and slept all day. Until one day, when Emma comes to visit her mother and finds Sophia unconscious on the floor. The hospital diagnosis was alarming. Severe malnutrition and dehydration, combined with chronic stress, had brought Sophia's body to the brink of collapse. When Oliver learned the news, he immediately rushed to the hospital. Despite their divorce, Oliver feels a pang of heartache at seeing the woman he once loved so emaciated. "How could you get yourself into this mess?" Oliver chided gently as he sat on the edge of the hospital bed. Sophia weakly opens her eyes, and the moment she sees Oliver, a glimmer of hope flashes in her eyes. But soon that light was swallowed by the gloom of reality. "Oliver, I'm sorry." Sophia's voice was so weak it was barely audible. I'm really sorry. For everything." Oliver took Sophia's hand and sighed. "Sophia, we are indeed over. But that doesn't mean your life has to end too. Think of Emma and Ethan. They need you." Sophia closed her eyes as tears slid down her cheeks. She knew Oliver was right, but she had absolutely no clue how to start over after losing everything. Just then, Emma and Ethan walked into the hospital room. Seeing the concerned eyes of her children, Sophia suddenly realizes that maybe she hasn't lost everything. Perhaps, in the midst of this rubble, there is hope for rebuilding. "Mom," Emma whispered, "we're all here. We're going to help you through this." Ethan nodded and added, "Yes, Mom. We're a family, and no matter what happens, that will never change." Sophia looked at her children and then at Oliver. Even though they were no longer husband and wife, in this moment she felt the strength of family. Perhaps that's what motivated her to start over. "Thank you all," Sophia said weakly. I'll try. For you all, and for myself." As Oliver and the children leave the hospital room, Sophia closes her eyes and breathes deeply. She knew there was a long, hard road ahead, but at least she wasn't fighting alone anymore. A few more years passed in the blink of an eye. Oliver's life has changed forever. After his divorce, he decided to give himself a fresh start and once again embarked on a journey of traveling alone. This trip was different from the aimless wanderings that had preceded it to escape reality. Oliver came with an open mind to really experience different cultures and hear different stories. He has trekked through the jungles of South America, observed wildlife on the savannas of Africa, meditated in the ancient temples of Asia. Each experience gave him a new perspective on life. During his journey, Oliver meets Ashleen from Ireland. Ashleen is a wildlife photographer with a passionate and adventurous spirit. The two met on a wildlife photography trip in Africa and were soon attracted to each other. At first, Oliver is a little hesitant to start a new relationship, but Ashleen's cheerfulness and understanding slowly melted the ice in his heart. She doesn't pursue Oliver's past, she just patiently stays by his side, giving him support and encouragement in her own way. Over time, Oliver finds himself learning once again how to love and how to trust. Though a twinge of nostalgia for Sophia still lingered in his heart, it was more a remembrance of the good old days and no longer a piercing pain. Just as Oliver and Ashleen's relationship grows closer, an unexpected announcement shatters the peace. Oliver's son Ethan calls to inform him that he is getting married and invites his father to the wedding. "Dad," Ethan said on the phone, "I want you to come. I've invited Mom too. I know this might make you uncomfortable, but I want you all to be there on the most important day of my life." Oliver was silent for a moment, then said softly, "Of course, son. I'll be there. It's your big day. How can I miss it?" After hanging up the phone, Oliver was deep in thought. He knew that this would be the first time since the divorce that he would meet Sophia head-on. Even though several years have passed, the thought of facing Sophia still sends ripples through his heart. On the day of the wedding, the church was filled with joy. When Oliver walks in holding Ashleen's hand, he immediately notices Sophia sitting in the front row. The years had left their mark on her face, but she looked to have regained her old elegance. Sophia also saw Oliver and Ashleen. For a moment, a flash of pain flickered in her eyes, but it was quickly replaced by a genuine smile. She nodded toward Oliver in a friendly greeting. The wedding went well. As Ethan and his bride exchanged rings, Oliver and Sophia shed tears of relief in unison. In that moment, even though they were no longer husband and wife, the pride and joy of being parents was shared. However, the peaceful atmosphere didn't last long. At the wedding reception, as Oliver and Ashleen dance intimately, Sophia suddenly stands up and rushes towards them. "How could you?" Sophia's voice was filled with pain and anger. "How could you display your new relationship so publicly at our son's wedding?" Oliver froze, not knowing how to respond. Ashleen awkwardly took a few steps back to give them room. The surrounding guests stopped talking and watched the scene nervously. Just as the atmosphere was getting tense, Emma stepped forward. She gently took her mother's hand and said softly, "Mom, don't do this. It's Ethan's big day, and we shouldn't ruin it. Dad has the right to pursue his own happiness, just like you do." Sophia looked into her daughter's determined eyes and suddenly realized she was out of line. Her shoulders slumped, remorse and shame in her eyes. "I'm sorry," she said softly, her gaze darting between Oliver and Ashleen. I lost control. Please forgive me." After saying that, Sophia quickly left the banquet hall. Emma gave Oliver an apologetic look, then followed her mother away. After this episode, Oliver feels both confused and heartbroken. He had thought Sophia had let go of the past, but apparently the wounds inside her hadn't fully healed. After the wedding, Oliver and Ashleen returned to their new home. Ashleen gave Oliver an understanding hug and said, "If you need time to process all of this, I completely understand. I'll always be here to support you." Oliver looked at Ashleen gratefully, reassured that he had made the right choice. Though the shadows of the past occasionally surface, he has learned how to make peace with them and move forward. Meanwhile, Sophia sits at home alone, reflecting on everything that happened at the wedding. She's ashamed of her behavior and realizes that she hasn't completely let go of Oliver. Despite all the years that had passed, and despite her attempts to start over, The wounds from that relationship never seemed to fully heal. However, Sophia also felt a twinge of relief when she saw how happy the children were. She decided that she would continue to work hard, not only for herself, but also so that she could face her children in a better state. She picked up the phone and made an appointment for counseling. Maybe it's time to really let go of the past and embrace life again. The curtain falls slowly on the story. Oliver and Ashleen continue their adventurous lives, supporting each other and growing together. Sophia, on the other hand, is slowly finding her way back to herself through constant self-reflection and therapy, learning to live independently and strongly. Emma and Ethan, children deeply affected by their parents' turmoil, are also moving forward with their heads held high on their respective paths. Their experiences have made them appreciate the present moment and the value of love and family. Life is like a book. A page turned is a new chapter. Although Oliver and Sophia's love story has come to an end, the story of life continues. In the days ahead, they will all be writing their own exciting chapters in their own way. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's story. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you have a story to share about your own or someone else's experience, please feel free to contact me. Take care.